People's views, political party views, still vary on the issue of climate change. Why should we believe in it, Governor Whitman, and in humans as the cause, as we're told?
Well, first of all, we ought to believe in it because the overwhelming amount of scientific research shows what's happening. And anybody who lives on our shores has seen the fact that the sea level is rising and have seen the impact from increased storms. No credible scientist will say Superstorm Sandy was because of climate change, but they'll say this is what you can expect: ever-increasing floods, droughts, and the severity of those. And we're seeing the climate change. We're seeing temperature changes. It's not a straight line, which is what makes it difficult for people to really understand it, but it's happening. And to think that that humans aren't having an impact, it always fascinates me when we watch China. Right before the Olympics, right before any G8 meeting, they close down all their factories. They won't let cars into the city. And guess what? The air is clear. You can see the sky. The minute they go back to business as usual, you can barely see across the street in Beijing.
So what should we be worried about, do you think, particularly here in New Jersey? We're a coastal state.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing we ought to worry about. How do we rebuild? Where do we rebuild? What should we be doing? Are groins the best thing? A beach replacement? How high should the homes be? How often and how much do we reimburse people for rebuilding in exactly the same place in exactly the same way? Should we be there to help people? Absolutely, without question. But it's more the federal insurance that's the issue, because up until recently, the guidelines haven't been strong enough to discourage people from rebuilding exactly where they were before and exactly the way they did.
So why do you think some people deny the existence of climate change?
It's hard. First of all, science, as I say, it is never that definitive. I mean, they will not say, absolutely, this is it, at this point you die. They'll always give you a range, which gives people the ability to kind of squirrel around within it. Also, for so long, we have posited clean air and clean water against a thriving economy. You can't have a clean and green environment and a growing economy. And we know that's false. I mean, between 1985 and 2012, we saw our population increase by over 35%. We saw our energy demand increase by over 24%. Our GDP in real dollars, allowing for inflation, more than doubled, and yet we reduced the 6 worst air pollutants, we call them criteria pollutants, by over 67%. You had more people using more energy, growing the economy, and reducing pollutants. So we can do this. We just need to do more.
What are your thoughts on President Trump pulling away from the Paris Climate Agreement? What are the consequences of that, in your opinion?
The Paris climate change has been so misinterpreted that it's kind of amazing. First of all, there are no hard and fast targets. You set your own target, and then the only thing you're required to do is report on it, how far you're getting toward it. They don't tell you how to do it. They don't tell you how much money you have to spend on it. It doesn't tell you, there's nothing else legally binding. The only legally binding thing is to say every X number of years, I've progressed this much, or I haven't. And that's that. What it does is it takes us out of the discussion, so we can't be there to encourage other countries to take steps. We are the largest still polluter on a per capita basis, and we need to step up, and we need to be part of this discussion because Mother Nature doesn't care about geopolitical boundaries. And what happens in China, let's say, it ends up on our West Coast. We see it when you have sandstorms in the Gobi Desert. I mean, they don't just stay right there, they migrate. And we have to understand that we're all part of this. It's one world, and we're being affected by it in many different ways.
So what are some real workable solutions?
Oh, there are lots. I mean, first of all, the alternate economy, if you want to call it that, those who are focusing on clean and green, are creating jobs at a record pace. And we see companies, I mean, I'm on the board of United Technologies. United Technologies for years has set very aggressive goals to reduce their carbon emissions because it's good business. It saves them money. It gives them a competitive advantage. And they have been doing that, and they keep raising their goals so that they can be in sync with what's happening under the Paris Climate Accord. And you see a lot of businesses doing that, particularly the multinationals who have to play on the world stage, and what they want is harmony. What they want is to know this is the set of rules along which we're all going to abide.
So we all have a role to play.
We all have a role to play.
Businesses
Absolutely.
and government.
Yeah, absolutely.
Governor Whitman, thank you very much for sharing your views.
My pleasure.